Ooh, that looks tasty.
Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Cafe, published by Mayfair Games, designed by Rolla and Costa, with art by Marina Costa. Before I get started, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that's where you'll find the corrections. Additionally, thank you to Mayfair Games for giving me a copy of this game to make this video. What this game is this is a game where you are supplying different cafes, coffee shops, with the coffee that they need to run their businesses. And to do that, you're going to be doing card drafting and kind of pick up and deliver / recipe fulfillment. And that'll make sense in just a moment. Now, if you're not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. So first we have our first player marker, and whoever has that will actually be the last person to draft every turn. I'll move that out of the way, and we have a bunch of different coffee beans here. I'll move those out of the way, and every player will start with a single card like this, and there's a whole bunch of different symbols on there, which I will explain in just a moment. Then, if you are playing with the expansion, which I have shuffled in here, it's called Espresso, though there is a little bit, though it would appear there is a typo on the English translation of it says Expresso, but if you're playing with the Espresso cards, you're going to deal out 4 cards that people will be able to draft from, which I will just place out right over. Then, when it is your turn to draft, you'll simply draft any one of these cards that you would like. If you draft a card that has a coffee mug on it, you're going to have to pay 1 coffee bean of your choice of color from your warehouse to claim it. So we'll just say I claimed this one right here. Then the market would refill and the next person goes. Once everyone has done their draft, then all the cards get discarded, and when the next round starts, there will be 4 new cards. So let's talk about what you're going to do. When you get your card, you will place it down covering either 2, 3, or 4 spaces of any of the other cards that are already out there. And you can orient it in any way that you want. So we'll just say I've oriented it like so. And then as you're playing through the game, you will be placing out more and more cards in different orientations as you move along. So we'll just say maybe I place this next turn, and then a turn after, I go ahead and I will place, we'll just say, this right here. The coffee cups that I pointed out earlier, that's going to tell you how many turns you're going to get. That's going to tell you how many actions you get. So in this case, I get 3 actions because I have 1, 2, 3 coffee cups. And there are several actions that you can take. And as you're making coffee, you're going to tend to go from the A's to the B's to the C's to the D's. And A's represent growing coffee. So if I were to take a grow coffee action, I would pick one of these beans somewhere on my board, and it and any connected bean, orthogonal only, would also grow coffee. So this is actually a very good growing spot here. So my one action, I would get coffee here, 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 and here. That's how the A action works. The B action is how you dry coffee. So if I were to take a B action, then I would be able to take all of any one color and place it on that drying field. So we'll just say I take all of the reds and I put it over here. Now I have another field over here that I could activate for another action and maybe take all of, oh, I forgot a red there, and take maybe all of the greens, like so if I wanted. Let's say later on, if I were to say draft this card and place it like so, I would have covered up everything and thus losing this 1 bean here, but now you'll see I have 2 drying fields next to each other. So if I were to say have this and use my action, my drying action here, I would actually get to take 2 colors and put them onto the drying field. One on this one, because this is adjacent to it, onto that one also. So maybe I take the greens and I take the reds, like so. Then the next step in general is you're going to roast the coffee. And then you choose a color and you can take all of the beans of that color from all of your fields. So if I activated this one here for a single action, and I'm going to move this out of the way now, then I could say, oh, I'm going to take all of the greens. Come from here and here. Now, as I mentioned with the drying fields, the same thing is going to happen roasting. So let's say I had this right here. And again, I'll put things back on my fields. And let's say I activated this one here. I can also activate this one and take 2 colors. So I'll take all of the greens from this one, and we'll take all of the reds from here. The last type of action that you can take is you can ship coffee. And when you do that, you can take all the beans from all of your different roasters around the board. And then that's when we look at the shops here. So this shop wants a single red bean. So let's say I decided to ship everything I had here. I would put 1 red there, and then this red, and these green, and these brown would then go into my warehouse over here and would be part of in-game scoring when we get to the end of the game. And you're going to play around like that until all the cards are out. And there are various things that may show up. For example, you have these 2 ships here. If you have at least 2 ships out, then you're able to draft cards that have the coffee mug for free. You don't in other words, you don't have to pay a bean. There's cards like this here, which has this little espresso here. So perhaps it was right here. And since I fulfilled this order right here at the end of the game, this would be worth 3 points, and so on and so on. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different size cafes you can ship to that have different space requirements and different bean requirements. But all in all, that's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? The first thing, small box, easy to travel with. In fact, I just took it with me on a trip back to visit my parents. And while it wasn't small enough to be able to play on the airplane, we were able to play it in the airport. Quick, easy. It says, I think it says 45 minutes. It's less than that. It's probably about a 30-minute game once you know what's going on. So I do appreciate that always. I always like when a game is easy to travel, and yet at the same time it has some weight to it. You really do have to think about what's going on, and there's good choices going on there. That said, it is very easy to learn the game. There's not a ton of rules, and once you understand the A, B, C, D aspect of, well, you got to grow the beans, and you have to dry the beans, you have to grind the beans, or roast the beans, I should say, and then you have to ship them. Once you understand that, it's actually really, really simple. But what I like the most about the game is, and actually what I think works the best is, there are constant hard choices in the game. Because every time you get a card, you have to cover 2, 3, or 4 spaces, which means that you are almost always covering something that you want. You are almost always covering something that is good. And to do well in the game, it means that you're often finding yourself covering things that are really good to try to build up to better turns later on. And I really like that. I also appreciate that as you're getting more actions, it's always hard to figure out what you're going to do with those actions. It is always a challenge to figure out, okay, well, I guess I'm going to set myself up for later. I don't have a coffee shop ready to stock, but I'm just going to dry some beans and have them ready to go. And you pull a color, well, maybe that's the wrong color, you don't know. So it's just a constant hard choice every single turn with everything that you do. And I always really, really like that. And the last thing I'll say here is, I think thematically, it works pretty well. Euro games are not known for being particularly thematic. Even when they have cool themes, sometimes it's just kind of pasted on. You really have to dig for it. But as far as this goes, I think it works pretty well. It does give you a decent understanding of how coffee works, right? You're going to grow different types of beans. You're going to dry those beans. Then you're going to roast those beans. So, you know, it works, and far more than I thought it would for such a small, light, quick, easy game. So, what are my quibbles with the game? The first thing is something I already alluded to. It can feel hard to do things because there are so many steps you have to take in order to fulfill a single order. You have to dry the beans, you have to grow the beans, you have to roast the beans, and usually there are multiple colors of beans you have to do, so you're going to find yourself with a whole bunch of steps you have to do just to get 3 or 4 points, and that can be a challenge. Additionally, because of that, sometimes it can feel like you're not making any progress. It's just slow progression as you're slowly earning points. You're slowly doing things. And that might be frustrating for some people. The next thing I'll say is, it's really easy to ruin yourself. You can absolutely cover things up and find yourself stuck. You can absolutely make choices as you're putting down those cards that just ruin your game. It's a short game, so maybe it's not that bad, but it is something that you can do. This is not a forgiving game. And then the last thing I'll say is, it's pretty much multiplayer solitaire. There is a little bit of interaction as you're doing the drafting of cards, but even when someone drafts a card, a new one flips out. So it's pretty much multiplayer solitaire. Again, that's never something that bothers me. I actually enjoy that in games, but I know a lot of people don't like that. And I guess the true last thing I'll say is, it takes up more space than you would think for the size of the box. it takes up a fair amount of space considering the size of the box. So you're going to sprawl a little more than you think you're going to with this particular game. But there you have it, folks. That is Cafe. This was one that Mayfair Games was kind enough to give me a copy of when I was just very intrigued with this design team that are releasing every couple of years another game like in this line, and each successive game somehow builds on something from the previous game. And so I do have the next one. The next one is about tinning sardines or something like that. I haven't opened it up yet, but I'm really excited to play it because it's a neat idea. It looks nice on the table. It's very simple, but there's some real heft to it. So there you have it, folks. That is Cafe. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with a timestamp so I can get out into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.